football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the
Good evening, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of the best, most positive Dolphins show on the internet, the Fins Bandwagon. Good evening, Dolphin fans. Welcome to the most positive Dolphin show on the internet. Not because I'm here, it's because Fish Tank is here, and our great guest BeardedPhinatic is here. Not because of me, but welcome to the most positive show on the internet for the Dolphins, the Fins Bandwagon. With me always is my pops, Fish Tank Hank, and the guy who claims I never wanted him on my show, but he's so busy I didn't want to bother him. Manny, BeardedPhinatic, how you doing, both of you?
I'm doing quite amazing. It's an honor to finally be on the Bandwagon show, and especially chopping it up with Mr. Hank here, because it's not enough checking out his car at the game each time there is a home game, but now being in his presence, it's that much greater.
Have you ever gotten a picture with the car?
I have not. I have not been one of those guys. I have not been one of those guys to take a picture with the car.
Why, is that a bad thing?
No, I just don't. I just don't want to be that guy. Listen, being a professional chauffeur as I am, if you need a driver to drive you around the city, just let me know. I will be more than happy to do that.
I get that. So, both of you, how you both doing today? Everyone doing well? You guys are both
I'm doing
good?
fabulous, man. It's another day before a win. So,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Starting
So
off hot.
before a win, so because both of you are season ticket holders, and you both, we both, I know we don't want to go backwards, but it has an effect on what's happening this week. You both were at the game. You both were thinking, this team has struggled down the stretch again in the month of December into January, but this is going to be my opportunity to get to see my first home playoff game, and I'm going to have to put out a lot of money, at least for probably 1, 2, actually 3 home games. Now you don't have to do that anymore. But what was it like for you, Hank, and then Manny, on being at the game? What was the experience with the letdown? How do you feel now that the Dolphins are now going on the road? So, Hank, you go first, and then Manny, you take it away.
wow, I was hoping you were going to let our guest go first.
It's fine.
Then, okay, ladies, age before beauty. So let's go, Manny, go.
Well, listen, I don't know how Hank felt, but that whole takeover, Bills Mafia takeover leading up to the week,
Yeah.
I never thought it was going to be that big of an effect. When we got to the game, Hank, I don't know if you agree with this number. I would say it was about 30-35% Bills fans, because that whole visitor side was for sure Bills fans. It was
the visitor side. It was like we were going against the other side, so the Bills definitely filled out the visitors.
Yeah, a sea of nothing but blue and red, Finstanza, all the way on that visitor side. But let me tell you, I would go somewhere around 30 or 35%. It was definitely not a takeover, but they definitely did show up in force. They were loud. I wouldn't say they were obnoxious, maybe 1 or 2, but for the most part, in my section, there was a handful of Bills fans, and they were all very, very polite the whole entire time. I will tell you, I don't know, because obviously I haven't heard it from Hank himself, how he felt leading up to it. But I said it a few weeks ago after the Tennessee loss. I said, the Dolphins will always find a way to dolphin. And they did it. I remember that right before that Titans game, Hank, we received the emails of go ahead and secure your playoff tickets. And that was the jinx. That was the jinx right there, for us to secure our playoff home games. And right before the game, I went up to Ian, Big E, as we all know on Twitter, and I told him, I go, something tells me that we're going to be in Kansas City next week. I would love to take care of business at home right now, but something tells me we're going to go to Kansas City next week. But I also followed up with, I feel very comfortable going to Kansas City. And I know we're not going to talk about Kansas City yet. Let me tell you, it felt amazing being there, because just as loud as they were, we were just as loud when they were on offense. So for me, it had what you want, Hank, from a home playoff game, even though it wasn't a playoff game. But that was as close to being as loud.
Locking up.
It was close to being as loud and a great game as a playoff game could potentially be.
Okay. But in terms of how the game went for you, because Hank obviously stepped out and come back,
Right.
The game sort of went the way potentially it went in the Dolphins' favor in the sense that the offense still looked like it was struggling.
Sure.
But the defense was still doing its thing. They still weren't great because it was a bend not break type of defense again.
Right.
It was very prevent, but the Dolphins had them going into the half. Both of you, what was it like to going into the half after that stop by Jerome Baker? What was it like for you? And then Hank, maybe go first. The Dolphins sort of had the Bills where better than what we all expected them to be during the course of that game. So Hank, going into the half, what was it like being at that game? You're taking your break. Did you have a sense that the Dolphins were going to close it out in the second half?
Well, you knew the Bills were going to get the ball the second half. That was the first thing that you already knew. Yeah. You knew it was a tight game. So you knew it could go either way at that point in time, in my opinion. You knew it was going to be a tough battle, regardless of which team won. And for me, I really wanted I really wanted them to win. I wanted them to pull it off. But at the same time, you, as a Dolphins fan, you always have it in the back of your mind somewhere. Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? You know what I mean? Fins up, Ray.
Did you what was the atmosphere like when the game sort of started to turn? Because it's hard to see that on TV. What was the feel for both of you where you guys were sitting? What was the atmosphere in the stadium when the Dolphins basically were not extending the lead and were sort of keeping them in the game? And then once they took the lead, did the air sort of come out of the stadium, or was there still a sense of hope?
I don't know if for Hank was the same moment for me. So obviously that huge stop by Jerome Baker just made our fan base go that much more crazy into the half.
Yeah.
Coming out of the second half, stopping them again, and them giving us the ball back, Bills fans were getting very quiet. Even that visitor side was very quiet. I think everybody was trying to feel the demise already. I can even tell you there was 4 Bills fans behind me over my right shoulder. They left when we stopped them again at halftime. Right, I'm sorry, as the second half started. So I'm like, this is crazy that people are leaving this game when the score is so close. So they never came back. I don't know if they were watching from upstairs or something, but I'll tell you, when that punt return happened, that's when you could feel the tables turning. As soon as he scored that touchdown,
yeah,
the atmosphere for the Bills just came right back. It didn't matter that the lead wasn't theirs, but they were back at that point.
I was like, holy crap, I can't believe it. And everybody around me, all you saw was faces of disappointment. Because around me was like all Dolphins fans.
It was on your side.
And you just saw your disappointment on their faces. You know what I mean? Where you not only see it in their face, you feel it in your bones where you're like, oh, man, this can't be happening.
Yeah. You guys weren't at the stadium or nearby after what happened with the person.
I was not.
You guys were gone, eh?
I was gone.
I don't know. That's crazy, though. That's just a little much.
Yeah.
But let's not even talk about that.
You want to know the worst part, Finstanza and Hank, about my seats? That punt return.
You got a perfect view.
He was running right into my arms. I was like, I just sat down and I looked at the Bills fans that were next to me, and they were just looking directly at me. And I was like,
he ran right into your end zone, eh?
He literally ran right into my end zone, right into the corner where I sit.
Did you guys watch the game back a little bit at all? Do you know that Justin? What was so bad about that play when you're watching it on TV was that you see that Cameron Good is about to collide with someone, and when the guy caught the ball, Justin Bethel froze. He literally let him go by. Like it's almost he ran past him. But that just tells you where our special team stands, and that's part of the reason why I was smiling. But at that moment, Hank, did you think the game was over? That was like the momentum swinger for you?
Well, at that point in time, I was like, this is going to be a tough battle. This is going to be tough. If we can pull this off, it's going to take a little bit. And then next thing you know, poof, we were totally out of it after the second turnover or whatever. The miracle touchdown. How's that?
And when they took that lead, and then Tua had that opportunity to come back, based on how the previous interception that he threw and the momentum of that game, did you have that sort of sense of what happened in the Cowboys game, or was there just didn't feel like it had the same kind of like playoff feel?
No, I at that point for me, Hank, it was in Finstanza for me when we got the ball back with it minute 48, I think it was, with no timeout. So I said more than enough time.
Yeah.
But I looked at my buddy and I said, this is where legends are born. And I've always considered Tua to be a great quarterback. I've never put him in that elite category yet, because at moments like this, with somebody who has 51 career starts, but you only have 8 game-winning drives in your resume, you more often than not, when these opportunities come up, you don't take advantage of it. So for me, the game was already lost even before we got that ball back.
Yeah. And, the throw, you're not elite when you throw that kind of duck
into double coverage.
Chase Claypool.
Double coverage for that important, and it was only 2nd and 10 or something like that. It just didn't make sense why he forced it. It really didn't. And, he could have checked it down. I'm not going to go back over
a multitude of things. Right.
Multitude of things. Like for me,
there were other things he could have done, and he chose to go, to Claypool, which nobody's been going to in the first place. So I didn't understand that. But
before we get to I just have one more question about the game, and then we'll move on.
Sure.
Was the play for me that ended the game was after that punt return, the first play that Tua threw that he called was a 25-yard pass into like a very tight window to Tyreek instead of working with the ball. Because once again, what I saw was that even though it was a tie game, your running game was still working for you. And when you heading into the fourth quarter, when you had 3 runs for 7 yards, we knew right away that we were trying to force it back down their throat, and we weren't doing what was working. So for me, you
mean besides abandoning the run, kind of like how Ray Finkel here just alluded to.
Yeah.
We literally only ran the ball 3 times completely in the second half.
Yeah.
That in itself is the major reason why we lost that game. Now, granted, even abandoning the run, having an opportunity with a minute 40 left on the clock, no timeouts, having somebody like Tyreek Hill on your team. But Finn, I think that goes back to what you said, Evan, plenty of times throughout your episodes. Tua, I think, only sees Tyreek Hill when he's on the field. There's no reading. There's no scanning. There's no audibling. Now, I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying it from a person who watches every single game, from a person who's there at the games. When he's at the line, I don't see an audible. I see a very Tua-centric offense. I'm saying Tyreek-centric offense, that if he's on the field, 97% of the times, it's going to Tyreek. By all means, it should. But there are other playmakers on this team. Like Hank said, you could have dumped it off to Achane. You could have dumped it off to Durham Smythe, who's been having really good play the last 3 weeks. There were so many options that did not have to be the final pass of the game.
Yeah.
What was the feeling? I need to know what it was, because I can only imagine how I would have felt at the end of that game. What was the atmosphere walking out of that stadium? Tell people who don't. Tell people that. What was it like?
I'll let Hank.
Hank, what was it like walking back to your car? Did you take your time? Did you just get back in your car and get out of there? What were you guys both doing? Did you stick around? Did you just want to get out of there?
I'll tell you what. You want to know what it was like? Get your kids a bunch of balloons and pop them all before they get to play with them. That's what it was like. All right.
That was perfect.
That was perfect. Deflateness at its best.
It sucked. It was like you were in a big rig trying to go down the road with 4 flats or something.
Yeah.
You just felt it chunking you around, like, it wasn't a good feeling.
No,
that's my point. Not at all.
Were Bills fans heckling, or was it more?
No, they weren't heckling. I didn't have problems with Bills fans. Honestly,
neither did I. Hank, I think your seats are in the upper. They're in the upper section.
I'm in 241.
So you're in the club level. At least for me, being down low, I'll tell you, I walked out. There were people shaking my hand. Like, good game. They were all being very respectful. Obviously, there was a lot of cheering. What has Tua done this season?
She's funny, Courtney.
Yeah. It's a fair question.
We're going to get to that.
But I'll be honest with you. There was no heckling. There was no poop talking. There was nothing for you to take away. A lot of people go back and forth on Twitter about how bad Bills Mafia is. I'm sorry. I think just like Dolphin fan base, Jets fan base, Patriot fan base, and so on and so forth, there's always going to be a small nucleus of fans that ruin it for everyone else. But for the majority, the 90% of the Bills fans that I ran to, they were all very nice. good game,
Fans
see
are
you
fans.
down the road, stuff like that.
Fans are going to be fans.
I had a few mouth off kind of at me because of my car.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't, that's people just having fun for themselves.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And you got to be able to be receptive to a little bit of that, and I was fine with it. You won the game. We didn't win. So you got me, It's the way it is. You got to take your shellacking when it's
We took it on the chin. We took it on the chin, Evan.
Yeah.
We took it on the chin.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But they were very graceful. They weren't being jerks about it, like Manny was saying. It just wasn't. They weren't being nasty about it, At least I didn't see it. Good. I didn't see it anywhere.
Yeah. So the one thing I will say about Courtney, and that's one of the positive spins I did have, I will give credit to Tua. The one thing he did accomplish this year is that he stayed healthy for all 17 games. That is kudos to him. That he did what he did what he said he was going to do, and he stayed healthy. That was one
and he threw that 4,500 yards. I knew he was going to throw.
Yeah. He was a leader. That's all that matters. But stats only mean so much.
I've said it. I've said it leading up to this, Evan, that I never thought that injuries was his problem. No. They were coming out of college for sure. And then the concussions last year for me was a one-off. He's never had a history of concussions before, but he did get rattled last year a lot, and that's why. But I never had a doubt that he could stay healthy. Obviously, Danny's always giving me crap. Oh, this guy's going to last 13 games, so on and so forth. But I think that's more of a person trying to heckle you than actually honestly looking at, because he's put in work on his body. Mm-hmm. He definitely took care of his body. He's definitely gained some weight. So for me, it was never an issue about injury. But like I was asked, did your opinion of Tua change? And it hasn't, because my opinion of Tua has always been the same. He's a serviceable, good, and now he's getting into that level of great. Is he elite? He's not there yet.
Okay. So we'll talk about
what I would say to that? I would say to that is you're right. And the reason why he's great and not elite is what we'll see in the next 3 games.
There we go.
If he doesn't win 2 out of the next 3 games, and I'm talking about carry the team on his back and make points when it's important. Make a drive down the field. I don't care if it's running backs, wide receivers. I don't care how he does it. You gotta be able to finish. And that's been part of Miami's problem. They haven't been able to finish. They get ran over and ran down on the defense, and then the offense comes up with nothing. They come up with peanuts for points at best. And this time, Tua has to show that he can do it with the elite quarterbacks, because that's who he's going to be going against.
Yes, he is.
I mean, Mahomes is no slough. Jackson's no slough. Neither is Allen. So he's got to do something. He's got to do something, and now is the time.
Yeah.
And, I think he's got a supporting cast where things can happen. But we're going to get into more of that. So I don't want to go too
as we
far.
recap this year, Hank, I know at the beginning of the year, I think you said 13-4, 14-3, and you settled the 12-5. What was that? Was that what you
15. I said 15 in the beginning before preseason.
Mm-hmm.
After preseason, I said it'll be 13 games.
I said 12, and you said what, Manny? What were you hoping for?
I said 12 as well. Yeah. Now, my last 4 did not pan out the way I thought. I thought my the last 4 games or 5 games at home, I thought we were going to win 4 out of 5. Obviously, that did not happen.
That was actually why. That was actually the person who jinxed us first was Hank, because back in mid-November when we were talking about the home games coming up, the only person who talked about the Tennessee game worrying him was Hank. So we blamed Hank for that one.
Great. All right.
Remember, Hank? You were the one guy. We went through the games in December, and the one game that bothers you, was the Tennessee
not Baltimore,
game.
Not Buffalo,
not Baltimore, Tennessee.
Yeah. I just, I don't know what it was. I don't know. You look at it, and sometimes we're not stopping the run. What's the thing? And we weren't stopping the run.
So in the end, for me, the 11 wins is what it is. It got you into the playoffs. But to have the cookie cutter schedule in terms of having that many home games at home, with the reverse of Buffalo, who won out, who had only 1 game at home. Mm-hmm. For me, it's not about where they finished, it's how they finished.
Sure.
Right? So for me, Manny, to go in and have the expectation that you had a 3-game lead, whatever they do in the playoffs, right now, is the regular season for you a success, or is it a failure because they choked away a 3-game lead and the opportunity to win the AFC East?
Wow, I feel like that's like a two-parter. Because at the end of the day, you have to consider it a success because you're still in the playoffs, right?
Yes.
But what do they say is the barometer at the beginning of the season? Like during training camp, win your division, get into the playoffs, make it to the Super Bowl.
Sorry, I'm getting phone calls.
That second part is obviously a failure because, like you said, they have a 3-game lead, 5 games left, and they dolphined their way out of it. Listen, Hank's always been a fan much longer than I have. I've been a fan since 92, and something the Dolphins have always taught me is they will find a way to break your heart. They will find a way. And listen, that's why I'm a Battered fan. That's why it says it on the hat. That's why I'm a part of the network, because I never get high. I never say this is our year. I never say this is the year we win the Super Bowl. I refuse to be that guy. Even while the rest of the fan base is getting excited because of how great we're looking. By all means, I agree. This is the best team we have fielded in a bunch of years. I get all that. But just because we're great on the field doesn't mean that you're getting to the dance. And if history's taught me anything, I refuse to be that guy to say this is our year. But to answer your question, I think it's both. It's a success because you still made the playoffs. You took advantage of your schedule because when they ask you, when they look at you and they say, did you beat the teams you're supposed to beat? Outside of Tennessee, we beat everyone we're supposed to beat. So the Dolphins did do that part. We obviously failed against the really good teams that are obviously all in the playoffs outside of Tennessee. So I think it was a success because we made it, but it's a failure because you literally gifted the division away to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Same question for you, Hank.
What?
Do you consider this a season of success because they made the playoffs? Or do you consider this a failure because they had the greatest opportunity with all the home games, a 3-game lead, and they choked away the division? So is this for you still potential success for you right now? Or
and I'm sorry, Hank,
a failure?
Before you jump in, Hank, and also you win some of those games, you could also potentially end up with the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
You're talking about a bye week. So I'm sorry, Hank, but go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah, we farted the bed at the worst time that we possibly could have. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, you just let all the air out of it, and, or water if you want, whatever. We farted. We farted it away.
Yeah.
And, I go into this, I'm a little different. I'm the opposite of Manny as far as the fan that says we're going to do it this year. Mm-hmm. I literally moved from Oregon to Florida because I thought these next 2 years might be our opportunity based on what I've seen happening with the Miami Dolphins organization. So this was supposed to be the year that I thought if we were going to do it, we were going to do it.
Okay.
However, we still have a couple good years left as long as we don't go through too much salary cap nightmare. So for me, this was a huge disappointment. I wanted us to be going on track by now. I wanted to be moving closer to Miami to go watch the games. All this stuff I wanted to do because I enjoy watching football games. And when I was in the military floating around in the middle of the ocean going, wow, what would I do if I was home? Wow, what could I do? And I used to always think that, you're floating around there 3 to 6 months. It's, no contact with anybody. So it just kind of,
Yeah. So you consider,
I look at it like I'm privileged to be able to go watch the Dolphins play, and I'm privileged to take my chance and throw my heart on the grill and hope that they don't let me down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Manny, I understand his way of thought too, because it's been nothing but 20 some odd years of just fart. And with Marino, I used to always complain about Marino because he wouldn't win and get us to the game. Yeah. And it was still the same problem. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. But guess what? We didn't get to the game but once.
Yeah.
Just once. That's not great. There's nothing great about that. Like Dan Marino says, he has an AFC championship ring. There's nothing great about that.
No, there's nothing.
And if you ask me now, if Miami falls short of winning 2 of these 3 games, then they haven't done what they needed to do. I know we have injuries, but I don't care.
Who cares?
I don't care. I
Okay.
really don't care. Everybody has injuries. Next man up, or whoever you hire to come in, better step up. It's that simple for me.
I'm going to talk about that when we get to the game, because the injury excuse for this type of game is
I don't want to hear
it's not an excuse.
Work.
I just want to give you guys a quick perspective, okay? So growing up where I live, people always said if you had to give up one of your sports teams growing up in Canada, shockingly, I come from a place where the sport of hockey comes as number one.
Yeah.
The team that I root for in Canada has won 24. Let me repeat this. 24 championships. I've been alive for 2 of them. I was 4 for one and I was 11 for the other, and I got to be at one of the biggest games to win that championship. Great. The Canadian football version of the team who won a championship this year, I got to experience 3 of them in my lifetime. Great. But if the one team that would give me the most joy and the team I love the most is the team I'm talking about right now. There's a reason why I don't do a podcast on the other sports. I talk about them, but I do a podcast about this team.
Yeah.
For me, this team is like Colin Coward said once. He said, "There's a lot. It's a why he said it's a fake Gucci bag. It's kind of what McDaniel, and I'll get into it a little bit, is the fact that they lived up to their own hype. Even because the thing that frustrated me, what turned me off on this team heading into the Buffalo game, both of you, was when Tua stood up there after losing by 37 points and said to all of us, we're exactly where we need to be right now. And you say to yourself, you just lost by 37. You just lost the number 1 seed, but you're where you need to be. And only this week, the last 2 press conferences that Mike McDaniel's had in his post games or heading into last week, they finally are talking about the fact that he's not as happy because he was too. So let me ask you guys, do you feel that the Dolphins were too loosey-goosey and too laid back and lacked fire, and that's why they pooched away the division? Do you feel like there was a lack of discipline in terms of going for the gusto? Take the Belichick mentality, take the Shula mentality, take that hard-nosed, old-school mentality. Is that what was missing for this team to close out the division?
I'll tell you this, Hank. I think that the discipline wasn't missing on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that starts with Vic Fangio being an old head, being a coach from early, I want to say late 80s. So he's been in the NFL for quite some time. So when you talk about having your team ready to play, now granted, I don't have to agree with the way he's been calling some of his defenses. The guy's been in the NFL forever. He knows, at least we hope he knows what he's doing. But I agree 100% with you on the opposite side of the ball, Evan. I think that we were missing discipline. We were missing veteran leadership. We were missing those playoff guys that you need in the locker room to be like, hey, we haven't done shit yet.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. Listen, I like Mike McDaniel. I like him a whole lot. But I know. Listen, I know. Listen, just bear with me here for a second.
Yeah, take your time.
The guy has never coached a team before. The guy has never called plays before. So we threw him into the fire, and we're expecting him to be a Bill Cowher or a Bill Parcells or a Bill Belichick or an Andy Reid or a Sean McVay. Not everybody hits the ground running. Not everybody does it. But when somebody tells me I'm going to give you a coach and he's going to coach you to 2 playoff berths in his first 2 seasons, I'm taking that 100 times out of 100. Now, is he messing up? Is he farting the bed, as Hank said? Of course he is. But I think these are learning curves. I think that he will get better with time. And obviously fans don't want to hear that. Fans want it now. And I get that. But we also have, listen, we lived through Cam Cameron, who was supposed to be here and be the offensive savior. And then he came here and gave us 1-15. It's like people are complaining about 2 playoff berths when we had Cam Cameron and a 1-15 team. I'm just saying it could be worse. But we are definitely missing the discipline on offense and the guys to get into other people's. You remember Marino when you've messed up? Do you remember Marino getting into wide receivers' faces, getting into offensive linemen faces when they missed a block?
Oh, yeah.
Tua's not that guy, obviously. Not as a quarterback and not as a person. But you need to show some of that fire when Chase Claypool runs a wrong route. When he drops a big pass, you need to go out there and just I don't know, man. Show some balls, because he definitely does not show it when he's on the field.
Hank, what about you? Hank, what about you?
Refresh my memory on what the question was, because that was pretty good.
You wanted me to refresh your memory. The concept is, do you feel that this team lacked the fire and lacked the discipline?
Okay, I'm with you.
And that's what caused them to pooch away this regular season.
I think that you don't talk about the team without talking about the coach.
Yeah.
Like Manny was saying, you got to talk about the coach, because that takes on your entire attitude of the team. Now, does he take a laid back style or attitude toward doing things? It looks that way to us. Yeah. But how much of that's being pumped up by the media just for, getting people to watch their show or whatever it is that's going on, When he talks to the team, you see him talk with passion. Mm-hmm. You see him say, look, we effed this up.
Yeah.
We got to go and fix. We got to go change. We got to make it happen. And he stands up there and says, we, because he is team motivated. And, do you need a hard ass to work hard yourself? No. I don't need somebody to be a hard ass on me for me to do my job. So if the team is taking a day off or whatever, they're the ones screwing up, because they won't have a professional job very long.
No,
is the bottom line.
Well,
but to answer your questions, I don't think that's what happened. I think it was timing. Timing was horrible for us. We got hurt and depleted at the worst time we ever could have, and it had a huge effect on us.
Yeah.
And I think once we started getting the majority of those injuries that would normally be our better players, you're talking, what was it, 8 out of 12 starters were out? Something like that.
Yeah.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not making excuses for anybody, and I've already told you, I don't care what's going on. Step up.
Right.
However, we didn't, is the point. And we needed to. And it's got to change. It's got to change.
You know what bothers me a little bit more?
What's that?
You know what bothers me a little bit more, Hank? That I feel like 2 weeks ago, we should have brought in Justin Houston. 2 weeks ago, we should have brought in a Bruce Irvin. These guys have been on championship teams.
Where was Bryce Callahan? There's so many players we could have brought in.
Yeah, there were so many players that
these guys come from championship teams with championship pedigree that could definitely help out that. Correct. So
yeah, but you're bringing them in. You're bringing them in, 4 or 5 days before now, and expecting them to go with a full defense.
So just a couple more things before we talk about the game, because the playoffs is what we're looking forward to. But I want to just ask you a couple of yes or no questions to both of you and all that. One thing about the whole thing about the laid backness for me, I want to just mention is the fact that when you saw a couple weeks ago Patrick Mahomes losing his mind on the refs, or you see you see how Tom Brady was as a quarterback, you see how Marino was, you see how John Elway was, you see how obviously Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs react, and they're getting mad at each other. I don't know if you noticed this at the game. Just a quick side note. Do you know that after two or three of that interception, Tyreek went into the tunnel? He was gone. He left the game. You never saw him again. He was gone. He was kaput. Yeah. He was finished. He didn't want to. He was sickened. He was sick by it. Do you feel like I don't know if
he should be sickened by the ball he dropped as well? But we won't get into that.
We're going to talk about that in the playoffs. We're going to talk about that in the playoff game about my idea about Tyreek Hill right now.
Yeah,
and why he's disappointed me this season, no matter what his stats are.
Right.
Do they show McDaniel on screen often when you're at the games?
No, I don't really think so.
He looks his facial expression during the course of that game were somebody who I think was finally getting angry when they showed the look on his face when the guy took the punt return. He said to himself, "Why didn't I fire Danny Crossman? Why didn't I fire that guy? Because he's the one holdover he kept when it made no sense to keep him,
right? And
he cost your team potentially a football game and a division because you kept the guy who failed last year."
Mm-hmm.
Josh Boyer wasn't great, but Danny Crossman was a bigger problem. and you kept him there. But the looks on his face were priceless because he looked like he looked literally shocked. He like couldn't deal with himself. Like he was, you could see the blame. But the point is that but he doesn't exert it, right? If I was him, I would have thrown something. But that's not who he is.
Yeah.
Do you feel for Tua? You said before that you felt for him. Did he exceed your expectations this year, Hank, or no? Yes or no?
I think so far he hit my expectations with a few drops here in the season. There's a few games where he didn't shine like he was supposed to, but everybody has off days at work. So
yeah.
But overall, he got us 11 games and he's got us in the playoffs. Is that a bad quarterback? No, that's not a bad quarterback. That like Manny was saying, it's a great quarterback. He's great, but he's not.
Give me your grade. Regular season grade for both of you of the quarterback room.
Quarterback group, I give
regular
him a B.
season so far.
I give him a B.
Manny,
it's tough for me not to give him. Listen, when you say did he exceed my expectations, I think he did. I didn't expect 4,500 yards from this guy. I didn't expect him to throw as many touchdowns as he did. I expect him to slip up along the way. Yeah, he definitely filled that. So for me, if I had to give him a grade, I go B as well.
Okay. O-line, both of you. Let's go quick grades regular season.
Wow.
A. Running group.
They've done a fabulous job with
right.
Nothing.
Correct.
I mean, come on.
I'll give a B to the quarterbacks too. Running offensive line, I give an A.
Yeah.
You?
Running backs is A as well. Listen, and shout out to Austin Jackson. I said it in the preseason preview when they asked me who I thought was going to take a step up. I called that guy out. I said I think this is going to be Austin Jackson's year, and this guy's played balls to the wall. Our O-line, no matter what patchwork they've had to do, who's filled in, what missing guys, A.
Tua hasn't been getting all beat up in the back.
You know who my most? You're gonna laugh. You know who my most disappointing O lineman is supposed to be our best.
Teron Armstead. Yeah,
he's been slow. Yeah. Slow. I'd rather put Kendall Lamb there on some nights.
He's been taking too many games off.
Yeah, I remember when we signed him, we're not signing him to 17 games. We're signing him to be there for 8 to 10. But even when he's there 8 to 10, it's like
he's slow.
Yeah,
he's slow. Running back room A
plus plus. A plus plus.
You're gonna be shocked by this one when I give my grade. Wide receiver room.
B.
Ooh. I'm gonna say C.
C.
Yeah.
You want to
I'm
know why
dropping
I say C?
them down a little bit.
Want to know why I say C?
I say C because they're not generating what they should be. They're not getting that, other than Tyreek Hill, who's getting separation? Who's doing what? Who's helping Tyreek Hill? Nobody. They're not getting open. That's the problem. That's why Tyreek's getting the ball like he should get it most of the time. But
too many drops.
Just too many drops.
Including Tyreek. Like for me, I'd give Tyreek a B, not an A, even with his top 17, because the amount of he has dropped at least 5 or 6 touchdowns.
Important ones,
this season. He's actually dropped them on a slant, walking into the edge. Someone showed the video. Even last game, couple games ago when he dropped it, but the one in Philly. Remember the one in Philly where he literally had it and he kicked it into the end zone. Remember that one? He literally kicked the ball 20 yards ahead. He honestly, what he showed to me for him, Tyreek, in that situation, is that that's why a wide receiver is not winning MVP. Because they're not good. Jerry Rice had a season, but they're never they're always because one mistake for them can cost you a game, but they can't win it back for you. Like they can do enough, but they'll never surpass anyone's expectations to the point where they're going to change the course of a game. Like Justin Jefferson, no matter how good he is, Tyreek Hill, no matter how good he is, CeeDee Lamb, they're never going to dictate the course of the game for me.
For me, it's a little bit different. To not give them, the reason I gave him a B was because of the drops, but I also put a lot of that blame on Tua. Tua's been, like I said, very Tyreek centric. Jalen Waddle did go over 1,000 yards again this season, so it's like he's had back-to-back years of 1,000 yards. Braxton Berrios, when you give him the opportunity, he's getting you first downs. He's getting you those clutch yards. Cedric Wilson, I have farted on this guy since signed by the Miami Dolphins. But when you give him an opportunity this year, he's shown up.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard for me. It's hard for me not to give him at least a B.
Okay. Tight end room, considering last season, still average.
Last season.
I'll go C. I'm not hating on him, but Durham Smythe is your poor man's Jason Witten. He's slow, but he'll get you some first downs here and there. But I can't give him any higher than a C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our tight ends are trash.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do a little bit. Okay. Let's start with the D line.
A. A for me.
Yeah.
You talk about Zach Sealer and Christian Wilkins, one having 10 plus sacks, the other one being 1 sack away from 10. Man, those guys deserve an A by themselves, man. Salt and pepper.
Definitely.
Linebackers. I give them an A2. Linebackers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give a linebackers. What would you give the linebackers?
A.
Definitely. A.
Okay.
Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips for me was
up.
the worst, the one that hurt the most. Jalen Phillips for me hurt the most. Bradley Chubb was obviously devastating. Devastating. Yeah. But losing Jalen, he was having a Pro Bowl season. Losing him hurt.
Now this is where I think the weakest comes out.
Here we go.
Secondary. For me, I give them an F.
Oh, that you're being I give them an F too, but
I give them a fail beyond belief.
Because Jalen Ramsey's on one side of the field, I can't give him an F.
No,
so
not
for
because
me,
of that.
I'm giving him a C.
I give him an F. Hank, what do you give him?
I'm not giving him an F.
I'm giving him an F. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why.
I'm not giving him an F. I give him a D.
Yeah.
You want to know why I give him an F?
Why?
Because Kohu regressed this year.
He did.
Needham is a shell of himself.
Yeah.
Cam Smith cannot get on the field.
Yep.
Jalen Ramsey got hurt in practice, but then he came back, but then he was okay. Like that one touchdown he gave up in that Dallas game was not great, but he was okay. Howard cannot stay healthy to save his life.
No.
Holland has not been the all-pro everyone thought he was and then gets injured. Deshaun Elliott takes some boneheaded penalties. Brandon Phillips takes some weird things, and there's just no depth there. No matter what we do in that secondary for the last 5 years since the rebuild, it's the one area, no matter what we do there, they always look like they're getting Burton coverage. Like that, like when you look at that Baltimore game and look at how confused this communication is, they're yelling at each other. They're confused. They're blaming each other. That Baltimore game gave me the F grade because in that game, every touchdown, they were yelling at each other. I thought you had him. I thought you had him. I go,
right.
17 weeks into the year, you're still trying to figure out who has who.
Ramsey was calling a lot of people out during that Baltimore game.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Now, I'll break out the secondary. I'll break this out because we're going to know where we stand because we're going to give him the highest grade. We're going to break it up. So, special teams, 1 grade. Jake Bailey, 1 grade. And then the greatest kicker to ever live, Jason Sanders, the last grade.
Special teams, I'll give him a C. Jake Bailey, I give a C. Jason Sanders gets an A++.
He's reverted himself. What a difference.
Yeah.
You, Hank?
I'm right there with him. Man, he knows. He's got it. I don't need to tell you any more than that. I mean, we're pretty much on the same page here.
The only thing that's disappointing me about Jason Sanders is that Evan's still not wearing his jersey. That's the only thing there's
a reason why I'm still waiting for it, but I did order it, but there's a bit of a slowness with the hiccup, but I will have
because
one.
It's a kicker's jersey. Is that what you're saying? Because it's the kicker's jersey, they didn't have one in stock.
Jersey,
they're making it fresh.
Exactly.
You know, that's what it is. That's what
makes
it is.
It slow somehow.
Yeah, by the way, had I been in Miami, I should have done what I should have done there. I actually, being honest, I should have stayed at the stadium and gone back to get it in Florida, and I would have been done. But the stress of having it all year was awful. No, because I will say this: he's automatic. I don't know if you happen to notice, since he kicked that 57-yarder, he's been automatic. Like it's literally off his boot. Like he's just off of him. He doesn't even react. He's just so relaxed about it right now.
You watched him before I watch the kickers a lot because I'm impressed on how high the ball can go. But I watch these guys. And I was watching Sanders. He didn't practice from nearly as long as the other kicker on the other side.
He wasn't.
Well, you saw it, right? I mean, one guy was kicking almost 60-yard field goals, and he was kicking like 40-yard ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
During practice. So.
Listen, the Bills kicker, I forget his name now, Evan, but at one point he was kicking from damn near almost midfield and just sinking them.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this is not looking good for us.
No.
Yeah.
By the way, Ray, I just hope you know, there's a company, you guys have a mistake too. Lids in Canada, the only Dolphins jersey they sell on the shelf is a Ray Finkel jersey. I'm not kidding. Number 5, Ray Finkel. Not kidding.
Awesome.
It's the one jersey they have in stock. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Go to the greatest show on surf.shop. Go to Kingswear. Pick up all your Dolphin stuff. Pick up all the greatest stuff you guys want to get. We have a special promo code, save 15%.
I don't know how you do it on this show, Evan. Are you gonna go through some of these comments that of people, or do you do that, or do you save that for the end of the show?
We're gonna go through them, but I'm letting people go through them. But you see me posting them. We're gonna go through them a little bit. But everyone gave grades similar to what you guys were giving.
Right.
Low scoring game. But we're gonna go through it. I wanted to get more to the comments during the Tennessee game, and actually on the last 2.
Okay.
Grade Vic Fangio for me. I'm not going to go all the coaches. Grade Vic Fangio regular season expectation from when he was hired to giving you a top 10 defense with all the injuries.
Hank, the leading into it. Yeah, I would say, Hank, leading into it, you expected him to come in and do a better job than Josh Boyer. He accomplished that, right? He accomplished. You don't think he's done a better job than Josh Boyer? Because Josh Boyer had a 32 ranked defense. I think we're ranked in the top 10 right now. Correct me if I'm wrong there, guys. In the comments,
we finished in the top 10.
We are, but where we are
we
now,
went from 25. We went from 25, went all the way up to 4, and then dropped around 10.
So there you go.
We dropped down for a reason, and that's because he refuses to change his play calling to any degree to get after the quarterback, and that's why I give him that grade. I watch him through tooth and nail sit there the whole game and not change up his game plan.
He's as stubborn as they come. He is as stubborn as they come.
No, if we win, we play.
That's why I say you have to be able to work with a team, and he wasn't.
I want to answer his question. If we win, it all depends, because if the Steelers end up beating the Bills, then we could
Ravens.
We could play the neck. We'll be in that middle seed. If the Bills beat the Steelers and we win, then we have to face the Ravens.
Correct.
You know what I did? I did my parlay. Steelers, Dolphins, Houston.
Wow. Okay, but to answer your question, Evan, I also give him a C, but for a different reason. C because he's stubborn. C because, like Hank said, he refuses to put pressure on the quarterback. He just keeps calling his own defense. It's obviously not working. But you brought him in here to improve what Josh Boyer couldn't do, and he succeeded at that. We're a much better defense this year than we were last year, and it's obviously in part because of him. But there are so many times he could have done better.
Not to interrupt you, Manny, but I also think that has to do with a lot of the talent we had too.
That's true too.
I'm not going to take anything away from the guys on the field. They've been doing a good job.
I give them a C too, but here's the 2 reasons why.
Sure.
One was the Tennessee game started off.
Yeah.
Blowing that lead and how easy the defense was letting in. Then in the Baltimore game, I said I don't think he was at the game. I think he was actually remote coaching because they never showed him on screen once.
Yeah.
And for me, I people might disagree because they like to have a good vantage point of the field. I feel when the defense was weak there, they needed a hard-nosed guy to be in their ear and not have to pass it through a microphone and giving it to Jerome Baker or Duke Riley or another coach. I wanted him on the sidelines for at least a couple of the games to sort of press that defense, especially in that Tennessee game. Had he been on the field, literally screaming at them after giving up that first touchdown, they wouldn't have given up that last touchdown.
You're not telling that old man to get down on the field. You're not telling that.
Secondly,
the whole he's like, I'm sitting up in my booth with the central heat and air, and I'm going to watch the games and give you what you need.
And the fact that he didn't, I understand he's an old curmudgeon, but the fact that he couldn't give develop Cam Smith and staying after 17 game Cam Smith and Channing Tindall and these former draft picks, your top 2 last draft picks, can't get on the field for you on the defense on a regular basis. When there's tons of other teams having their top play, having 5th, 6th, 7th round picks on the field as regulars, and you can't get your top draft picks, that's a failure on the coach for not being able to do that for me.
Whoa, I don't know. I don't know if that's a failure.
It's 2 years in a row, Hank, that you're a coach with your whole staff that can't get Channing Tindall or Cam Smith to play snap. You're telling me that Eli Apple is better than Cam Smith?
Hey, you know what?
Even in garbage time?
There are people that just can't absorb what they need to play.
But
some of those guys are like that. And it just happens that some of them that we have on the team are like that. They're not absorbing it. So they went from last year's defense that they didn't understand to this year's defense that they didn't understand. That didn't help anybody.
No.
They're the same players that can't learn. They're having problems learning the system and learning what's going on. That's not on the coaches. I mean, you know,
dumb it down.
Just like me, when I leave my house, I have to have my GPS to get back home. It's just the way it is. Since I bumped my head in the military, if I don't have my GPS, I'm not going to get back home. Okay. It's just that simple.
The last person, because I don't want to go through all the coaches, grade Mike McDaniel's second year as head coach.
B. Give him a B, man. He got us back to the playoffs with 2 more wins on the record. I give him a B.
Yeah. Yeah. I was between A and B. I'll say B plus. And the only reason I give him a B plus,
they're all college grads,
is because it's only his second year. And that's why I give him a B plus. That's why I give him a B plus.
And that's my point too, Hank. I feel like a guy who's learning on the job. He is literally learning on the job. I don't care how long he's been a coordinator. I don't care how long he's been behind all these other great coaches. He's doing it for the first time ever. Yeah. And these first 2 years, he showed glimpses of greatness. And those glimpses have looked really well. And he's also gotten our team that we all love and we all cheer for to back-to-back playoff berth. Now, granted, if he comes next year with the same exact talent and gives you anything less than 11 wins, then we have a problem on our hands.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the Kansas City game. I'm going to give you 2 reasons.
Then we get Jim Harbaugh.
No, here's my C grade. Here's my C grade. Here's my C grade, and the reason why I give a C grade. Okay,
sure,
a C grade. I'm not going to give him worse. You kept Danny Crossman, who cost you a lot this year, and the other stat is, and I think, tell me if you understand where the stat came from.
Okay,
I'm not counting last game because last game. Okay, I won't count last game because I haven't done that calculation. But prior to last game, 37-19. You know what those 2 numbers are?
I do.
How
37 points is the amount of points that in your 5 losses prior to the Buffalo game that you gave up. 19 is the points that you scored. You finished as the number 1 offense, and when you had to go against Kansas City, Buffalo, Tennessee,
Fins up, Jason.
37. You literally had to you only scored 19 points. And in your last game where you needed that playoff win, you generated 14 points. And so and your defense gave you 3 turnovers. What's up, Jason? So for me, that alone, those losses fall on a head coach's where your number 1 offense could not produce more than you lost by 3 scores on average to these other teams.
You don't give him, you don't even give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt for that reason that he is a brand new coach to play calling. Now I've heard
be play calling because what's Frank Smith doing?
Correct. I was just about to say that.
Frank Smith should be play calling.
I agree 100% with you. I agree that if he's going to be the head coach and he's going to be putting this game plan at the beginning, he's going to be working 86 hours a week. You have to pass off some responsibility to your offensive staff that you yourself have built. It's not like if they've been handed to you, you've picked these guys. So I agree.
Yeah, Tony, welcome. It's Saturday. I wish I want to say hi to everybody. Hammer,
Tony,
Ray,
it's a good thing that we play Saturday and not Sunday, Tony. I just want to tell you that. We play Saturday.
You guys get the game locally, eh? Where you
the
guys
Dolphins aren't going to lose nothing.
But Hank, you get it locally? Because it's on Peacock. Do you have Peacock?
No, I don't.
So did you get it locally in Orlando?
No.
How are you going to watch it? You're going to go to a bar?
Got sports bars.
That's what they're for.
Oh, there you go.
Raphael,
got
Paul,
plenty of them. If I don't get it on the TV somehow, because I have a bunch of different ones, I don't have Peacock. But if I don't get it somehow, I'll just go to a sports bar.
Just a quick shout out. Listen, it's $5.99, and as soon as you sign up, just cancel it. As soon as you sign up, cancel it. You're gonna get Peacock for 30 days. Just cancel it as soon as you sign up.
Yeah, 50. In Canada, they put everything on. We get access to everything. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, guys, I actually said, and I don't know if you disagree, I did not want to face Buffalo twice. I'm okay. I said before the game, I'll be okay going to Kansas City, whether or not. How did you feel? How do you feel when you knew that we were about to go to Kansas City? Did you say, "Oh crap," or did you say, that the Kansas City Chiefs are beatable.
You know what I said?
Right at the onset.
Yeah.
You know what I said? I said our running game's better than their running game. If it's cold weather that they want to deal with, we have a better running game than they do. That's fine. That's what I said.
Okay.
I told Ian right before the game, I felt very comfortable going to Kansas City. This is not the same Chiefs that we have seen for the last several years. And I get that.
Not even
they
close.
Still have Andy Reid. They still have Patrick Mahomes. They still have Andy Reid. These are great people to have in an organization when you're going into the playoffs. I get all that.
Okay, well, let's take a look.
If there's a season where they could be punched in the mouth, it's this season where they've been consistently punched in the mouth. They should have lost to the Chargers. Obviously, they only won 13-12. Finn, I told Ian before the game, I'm telling you right now, I don't know what it is. I really don't know. I don't know if it's the history and what I've seen from the Kansas City Chiefs this season. But when I literally got to there was a piece in me that I felt comfortable, not that I wanted, but that I felt comfortable going into Kansas City, like you said, whether or not. People say that what travels really well for championship teams, defense and running the rock.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Dolphins have a top 10 ranked defense, and they run the rock better than any other team in the NFL.
Yep.
I think those two things are gonna transpire to Saturday's game on Peacock. That's all I'm saying.
And if you look back, not only was it the Chargers they barely beat, they didn't blow out the Bengals. They lost to the Raiders. Mm-hmm. They lost to the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they lost to Green Bay. So, they haven't been the same team like Manny was saying. They're definitely not the same team that they've been in the past.
Okay. So, yes, they had a disappointing season. They're not the same team, but they're still playing at home.
Yep.
It is going to be freezing.
Mm-hmm.
The game is basically going to be do you think, actually, before we get into the actual game, I expect, because of how much the tickets have dropped in terms of price, that the Dolphins fans will travel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know a bunch of people, Manny, who are going to the game. Yep. There's actually a guy on this network who joins once in a while, was on our post-game show. He's on the Goon Squad and Fast Break. His name is Neil. He'll be there. He lives in Houston. San Antonio, sorry. He decided today that his wife can't travel. He's never been to a Dolphins playoff game. He bought a ticket. He's flying from San Antonio to Kansas City. Got a ticket because you can get tickets for as low as $60 US.
Yep.
And get to the game. The only thing is that people who don't understand the cold, I understand the cold. I could go like this and survive. I'm used to it.
No,
but people don't realize how cold it's at night.
Wind chill.
Wind chill. You are going to feel it, but because you're standing still. People you may not see Mike McDaniel. You ever see South Park? You may not see Mike McDaniel's face.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be like this.
Mike McDaniel may not see his face. You may not see his face.
I remember being up in the Bering Sea with the wind blowing in my face. Yeah, that was a nice, cool
afternoon. She may not come to the game. Honestly, she may not fly to Kansas City. She may not show up to that cold.
Taylor Swift. I don't care about Taylor Swift.
Well, if Taylor Swift is there, we have a high probability of winning the game also. She's been a bad luck charm for the Kansas City Chiefs. So maybe she should be there.
Kevin Harlan's calling the game.
Yes.
Kevin Harlan's calling the game. So, let's talk a little bit about this game quickly.
Let's do it.
For you, let's start off with Mike McDaniel. How do you truly believe this is the opportunity that he will finally learn from last year, where he almost beat Buffalo with Skylar Thompson, that finally, Tua or not, stop making Tua a gunslinger? That's not his job. His job is to be more Chad Pennington than it is to be Dan Marino. Will he run the football more than he will pass the football, even though it's Tyreek Hill's revenge game?
By the way, I really appreciate the fact that you said Chad Pennington, because a lot of people like going onto Twitter and YouTube, Instagram, and say, well, these Dolphins have never fared well in the cold. Well, there was a team led by Mr. Chad Pennington that went into Kansas City where it was 10 degrees and beat their ass by throwing 3 touchdown passes that game. Now, granted, I don't like talking about history because that wasn't the same team, same players, same coaches, but some people do. So for people to say it can't happen, it's happened already.
Yeah.
So Furthermore, I think Mike McDaniel is sour, like you said. After that loss against
pissed.
Buffalo, he knows he cost us the game. He knows Tua cost us the game. He's going into Kansas City with all. Granted, it was a huge negative, but it's turning into a positive because he's going into this game knowing Vic Fangio is going to run a good defense. He's going to slow down Travis Kelce. Listen, Travis Kelce only had 3 catches against us when we played him in Germany. He will find a way to slow down Travis Kelce. I think Mike McDaniel is going to – I don't know if you're going to see it 22 straight times like you asked, Evan, but I think you are going to have a Mike McDaniel called scheme. I don't know. I don't know, Ray.
By the way,
Ray.
By the way, that was the steal because with the amount, you know who our quarterbacks were going into that season, like John Beck, Chad, like this. Did they get him? Was what a steal to get Chad Pennington when we
listen. Anything's better than having Cleo Lemon as your starting quarterback. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. Cleo Lemon was our quarterback the year right before. I don't even know who Cleo Lemon is or where he is now, but
Mark.
I think we're gonna run the ball very effectively this upcoming Saturday on Peacock. But dude, I think Mike McDaniel. Listen, he had his shit soup. I'm sorry, can I say that?
Yeah,
he had his
say
shit,
whatever you want.
He had a shit soup from Buffalo. It's been sitting on him.
Fourth and one. He didn't know what down it was.
You remember when he came down to Josh Boyer last season and he goes, "You need to fix this shit."
Yeah.
I think Vic Fangio, if at any point Mike McDaniel gets away from running the rock, and especially when it's working, he's gonna fix this shit and keep running the ball.
Yeah.
Because his defense is gonna give him an opportunity to stay on the field. Jay Fuller definitely played his heart out.
Yeah. So Hank, what about you? Do you think he'll adapt finally?
I think he won't have a choice due to weather. He's going to have to run the ball to some degree.
So
now, he could throw the ball to Tyreek because Tyreek's used to that weather, But I don't see them doing that a lot, not compared to running the ball. If they don't run the ball at least 60-40 run, I'd be surprised. I'd be shocked.
For this game, though, so obviously for you, if you had a choice between 2 of our key offensive players playing, whether it's Raheem Mostert or Jalen Waddle, we all 3 of us want Mostert.
100%. 100%.
Every day, all day.
Either way,
doesn't look good,
get on
Waddle.
the field. Doesn't
Waddle
matter.
does not look right
if it's, I read somebody's quote today, and I don't want. I'm going to butcher it, but it basically said, if you want to win, you got to do things to win. You got to put it all out there, and I don't think we've put it all out there as a team united yet. We haven't done a complete,
True.
Our team hasn't
frozen fish
completed, on both sides
Love you,
of the ball game. We did 1 or 2 games during the whole season, but for the rest of it, it was either offense or defense.
Correct.
We're not playing a complete game still, which has been bothering me for years, but it's just the way it is. Marino, it was all offense. There was no defense.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's.
By the way,
I'll take balance.
Somebody pointed it out in the chat. Yeah. They're like, well, the Dolphins are going to play. You think Kansas City's out there playing in blizzards? No, man.
They're not used to this.
This is going to be tough for them as well. They do not practice in blizzards, ladies and gentlemen.
No, they do not. They can't. They can't. No team, no matter what, is ready for the snow, even if you play in the snow. Because even if you go to Lambeau, no, think about this. Tampa went into Lambeau. Tampa Bay with Brady, but they went into Lambeau, and they beat Rodgers. Yeah. The people can go anywhere and beat anybody.
The weather's not that big of a factor when you have big giant coats, heaters for your feet. Yeah, it's not that
Vaseline
big of a
their
factor.
Arms. They do whatever they need to do. They do whatever
they put that heat skin on. Put the heat skin on and throw their long johns on and go get them.
Yeah. So from the defensive side of the ball, it was announced today that Javon Holland and it would be more likely that Javon Holland, Deshaun Elliott don't play, and that Brandon Jones and Elijah Campbell play. How significant is that to our defense?
That's huge, man. That's huge.
Does that make or break it for your defense?
I think it does because Rashid Rice, even though he's had some big drops, he's had some big offsides penalties this year. He's played really good his rookie year. But Brandon Jones has not shown you great football this year. Elijah Campbell hasn't shown you great football this year.
Ethan Bonner.
Ethan Bonner hasn't shown you great. Listen, Ethan Bonner's got a good game. He got one good deflection this season so far.
No.
But that does make or break it for me. I think it will still be a close game. But if those guys can't go, Patrick Mahomes can take advantage of people if you ask him to
even
pass the ball.
Even if he's throwing a rock.
Yeah. Even if he's throwing something that might break Deshaun Rice's hands from how cold that ball is, I don't like Javon Holland, Deshaun Elliott not playing. If you gave me one or the other, I could be comfortable with that, but I don't like the fact that both of them will be missing.
Yeah.
Okay. Hank?
I agree. He hit a nail on the head. You don't need to hear from me.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do, Hank.
I'm going to give you a very
This is your show.
Before we talk about – I know we each – I'm going to make my prediction right before the game on the pregame show at 6:30.
Yep.
On Saturday.
I'll be making mine tomorrow.
Night. You're going to make yours tomorrow. Hank's going to make his on Fins Talk today. Hank, you can join us again if you want on the pregame show 6 hours later. But you and I are I'm going to be doing double duty on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. Just give you some positive. The last 2 weeks they've done simulated games on they've posted it on Bleacher Report. EA Madden has done simulated games of the Dolphins games against Baltimore, against Buffalo, and against Kansas City. The last 2 weeks we've lost. Today we won. So the fact that we won 19-14. So
I like that score. I actually like that score.
That's a positive for us. Ray, right now, Mostert will likely play. Waddle, it's still up in the air. They're still both questionable. I'm leaning towards Mostert playing, Waddle not. So for me, I want to ask you guys, this is our last question of the day because we've been on for an hour and I appreciate everyone. I don't want to keep everyone going for too much longer. Sure. Do you think that the Dolphins are better off in the underdog mentality than they are as the favorites at home? Does this put less, even though they've lost and choked it, because no one expects them to win, because now it's in the snow, Tua can't play still in that weather, like McDaniels crapped the bed, the Dolphins have so many injuries, they don't stand a chance. Is it better that they are limping into the playoffs as an underdog versus limping into the playoffs as a favorite at home?
First off, that's a great question. But I agree, Hank. It's definitely a yes, because this team has shown you what happens when they're the favorites. This team has shown you that when they're supposed to win, they won't win. This team has shown you when they get up here, they fall very fast.
Yeah,
I like the fact that they're the underdogs. I like the fact that everybody on the media is saying we're about to get whooped like we've never been whooped before. I like all that because I think the Dolphins play better when they go out there and they have nothing to lose.
Hank?
Yeah, we're going all out. They're going all out. I don't. It's not like when they have the favorite, when they're favored or at home or whatever. It seems like they kind of shift down a gear a little bit. And I think that this is just the wake-up call they needed. Go get you a little blizzard, and then you're going to probably go to Buffalo and get a little bit of that, or the Ravens. So either way, just beat the Chiefs.
Yeah. Actually, I wasn't done yet, but I keep going.
But that was a great question.
I love doing this.
You said you were done.
I always tease. I always keep going. What was my next question, though? I already lost my train of thought, but I'm going to come back to me.
He forgot.
No, it's going to come back to me in a second. It's going to come back to me in a second before I go to my next question. Oh, yeah, here we go. I've never asked you, Manny, this question, and Hank.
Okay.
If we lose, not we're going to win, but if we lose,
sure.
Do you fire? If we lose, would you want the Dolphins to fire Chris Grier for the lack of depth on this football team?
Wow. Okay. I didn't think you were going that route. I thought you were going to ask to fire somebody else, which and then
no, I'm going to get to that. No, I'm going to get to that.
We would have had a very vivid.
Are you done with Chris Grier? I've never asked you this personally, Manny. What is your stance on Chris Grier as the general manager of this football team?
I'm not. From the time that he's been a general manager, because you remember people were like, "Oh, well, he's been here for 20 plus years." Okay. Listen, the guy worked under Jeff Ireland. The guy worked under
Dennis Hickey.
This guy worked under Mike Tannenbaum. Yeah. Those guys were a waste of GM. I like Chris Grier. I know that's not the biggest point of view that everybody else has. A lot of people don't like him, but I like Chris Greer a lot. I think that he's done well with some of his draft picks.
Mike sounds like me. Mark sounds like me.
I think he's done well with his. I think he's done well with his draft picks, Hank. I think he's done. Does he always hit it out the park? No, but what GM hits it out the park every single time? But I think that he's done very well since he's been the GM for the Miami Dolphins.
Hank
is frozen.
Okay. Hank will come back and then I'll ask him. So,
yeah.
So you, even if we lose, you'd keep Chris Greer?
I would.
Okay.
One thing I like about my organization, or any organization, and you could speak to this because you've seen plenty of winning teams out there. They always have, from the GM to the coach, they always have tenures that are longer.
Monday. I love you, Ray.
Oh,
Ray, I'm taking you for dinner. Now, you're coming to fan club weekend next year, Ray. I'll take you for dinner, and I'll buy you a hat. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, hat.
But I like camaraderie. I like people being
on Monday.
I like people being in the same position for many years.
Right.
If you consistently fire people over and over again, you're going to consistently get the same effect. Yeah. So no, I would not fire Chris Greer.
Would you, if we lost on Saturday, would you fire Chris Greer, Hank?
No.
Okay.
Chris
Let
Greer
me ask you both this question.
Well, hold on. I need to respond.
He needs to get his point in. He needs to get his point in here.
Go.
No, because Chris Greer has more talent on this team than it's had in 20 plus years. That's what Chris Greer has done that people don't recognize.
Evan fires everyone.
So you start firing this one and that one, then they have to go through the learning process the first year or two before they're actually on mark. And that screws us over the long run. Don't get rid of Chris Greer and his staff just yet. Give them another year or two, and if it doesn't pan out, then chuck people out the window.
Finn and Evan, before you fire everybody, how often do you hire a new GM and they want to hire their own people? So you're literally going to start the cycle over again if you fire.
Because we always do the half-half. That was my half measure. Yeah. So the reason I actually asked you guys that question was I want to know your answer to that. And the reason why I knew you guys would both answer no is because if they fire Chris Greer, they have to fire Mike McDaniel. And because you guys both don't believe that Mike McDaniel deserves to be fired, then you have to keep Chris Greer. So either way, the thing is that for me, whether you keep Chris Greer, whatever happens, I predict that Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, and Tua are tied to the hip. If it doesn't work if it doesn't work this season, they all have one more season. If they can't prove it, they're all gone.
I agree.
That's why they're not going to sign Tua to an extension. I really don't believe until the end of freaking next season.
I like that. I like that point of view. I think it's true.
Well, let me ask you though: if we put up a goose egg, we're talking like 24-0, and there's no offense whatsoever. Tua's throwing the ball. There's no running game. Would you then have a different opinion of Mike McDaniel as your head coach? If it's on a close game and it's a total beatdown in Kansas City, does your mind, and you see all these coaches out there, I'm not saying we're going to get them. You see Harbaugh, you see Vrabel, you see Belichick, you see
all these people that you're mentioning have many years at doing this.
Yeah.
This guy has 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
You don't fire him after 2 years. No, you keep him there.
I'm just asking the question.
Listen, you're asking a very disrespectful question is what you're asking. First of all, if he
that's why you come on the bandwagon, because by the way, I told you what I would do tonight. I would flip it because I want to see the positivity come out of the two of you.
Okay, so if he lays a goose egg, I still don't think it changes because again, he's brought you to back-to-back postseason berths.
Yeah.
Name me the last coach to do that off the top of your head. Go.
On this team?
Yeah.
They've won.
Exactly. Exactly my point. What was the last coach to do it? I was in high school the last time it happened. No, you don't get rid of Mike McDaniel.
Okay.
I was still young.
So let me ask you something. Is there a coach that is out there right now? Is there anyone you would fire right now for this? Do you believe there's a better coach out there who right now that is better fit for the Miami Dolphins going into this football game than Mike McDaniel? Meaning that, do you feel that a defensive-minded coach like a Vrabel, like a Belichick, like a Flores, I'm just asking, a defensive-minded coach who wants to run the football, one of those guys, if you had to plop him in there on Sunday, does he give you a better shot than Mike McDaniel to stick to a game plan you believe in the playoffs will get you a victory? That's what I'm asking. I'm not saying he's a better coach. Do you feel that Mike McDaniel is the coach you would want, do or die, for this playoff game, the way we have to play this playoff game to win?
So that's a two-parter. Is there another coach out there that I would want instead of Mike McDaniel? The answer is no. I think, like I said, I think Mike McDaniel learned from his mistakes, and he will run the right game plan on Saturday. Now, what I will tell you is, and I just preached about how much I like Vic Fangio just a little while ago. But Hank, I don't know about you, but if I could get a Mike Vrabel to come in here and be the defensive coordinator, I think that's the only thing that I would change on this coaching staff. I'd get Mike Vrabel to come in and be the defensive coordinator for these guys.
Wow, that's big because he's only been there a year. But you know what? They fired defensive coordinators. With the talent he's had, I'm surprised we haven't done better. I know he likes to do his prevent defense, but there is a time where we all know it. He won't change his ways.
Same Cap. Hank feels the same way, Cap.
You gotta change it around. You gotta change it around.
My thing for Cap for life, I felt this way. I think Hank felt this way as well, even before we lost to Buffalo. I've told people on here, and I've told people on Twitter, and I've told people on my show, I can't explain what it is, but I just something tells me that I feel comfortable going into this game.
You want to know why you should feel comfortable?
Because
one reason only.
Because you picked them to win.
No, because I said that they are better off going in as underdogs than feeling the pressure of winning at home. When they lost that 1 seed, and I said to myself, just go on the road and just like you're going to pooch the bet anyway. It's like just go earn it back, because you're going to get more stripes and more appreciation from your fan base, and you're going to appreciate it more going from as an underdog all the way back up to the top. Then because you've already screwed. When you lost that Tennessee game, you were going down the tube anyway. So hit rock bottom and make your way back up. Don't do it half-ass and just be in the middle there.
Yep,
well,
I agree.
To answer your two-part question, by the way,
go for it.
As far as would I want someone else to be there? No, because we have Vic Fangio as our defensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel doesn't dictate what happens on defense. We all know that.
Right.
So knowing that going into this game to start with,
I love Cap.
You have two head coaches going into this game. Would I rather have two head coaches going into this game or somebody else? No, I'll take the two head coaches we got.
I agree.
Do you guys think Fangio is a one and done if it doesn't go well this year?
Wow.
I
don't think so either. But Hank, something tells me that he's closer to being done coaching than it is about him being fired or anything like that. I think that if he leaves, it's going to be because he wants to leave. Like, I don't think that he gets fired, even if we give up 24 points, even if we get shellacked. I think Fangio is just closer to the end of his coaching career than anything else.
I'll tell you right now, no, I don't think anybody's getting fired till after next year.
I agree.
Next year, you ask me if McDaniel will be there. Depends on his win-loss record. Because if Jim Harbaugh is available, and we know the owner loves Michigan and loves Jim Harbaugh, guess what?
Well, Harbaugh's going to get hired this year.
Yeah, I think Harbaugh definitely
can't go back to Michigan because of the scandal.
Yeah, but that's still a maybe. He might not. There have been plenty of coaches that sit a year.
And I'll put it to you this way. Everyone's been talking about and we'll talk about it just one more minute as our last topic. We'll get away from the Dolphins because I wanted to save you guys your predictions for your shows. What was do you find it a relief, or do you that Belichick's no longer within our division? Like, is it a relief, or you never really cared because we were killing them the last couple of years?
For me, Hank, it's not a relief anymore. For me, it was a relief when Tom Brady left.
Yeah.
I think Bill Belichick is a great defensive coach, but he is he's plagued by the same thing that Brian Flores is plagued by. These guys can't build an offensive
staffs.
Right. They just can't. So once he lost the GOAT as his quarterback, everything went downhill. So he could have stayed there for a couple. I don't mind seeing the Patriots at the bottom of the list. They were the most dominant team in our division for the last 20 plus years. I don't mind seeing them down there for the next 20 years along with the Jets.
Yeah.
I'll make a prediction. Let's just hold. No, I have a prayer. I already said the prayer. Let's already hope that Robert Kraft wants to hire Gerard Mayo as a successor. The last thing the Miami Dolphins, who's already on staff, and they don't have to go through the rule, because the last thing anybody in this division wants, including the Dolphins,
he's going for him.
No, if you hear Mike Vrabel,
he's going for him.
If you hear Mike Vrabel as the Patriots, they're going to move. They're going to be back up in the top of the division, fighting with all of us within 2 years.
I agree, but I think that I don't know how Hank feels about that. Hank, you let us know. But I personally think that if Vrabel has even this much of an interest in joining the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft will give him the keys to the kingdom and bring him to New England.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll let him do the grocery shopping as
not like Bill Belichick. Correct.
No, he's going to have a whole other system in place.
Talk about what's going on in the NFL.
Somebody else in.
And just talk about the overall NFL. Just watch out. For me this weekend is less about in terms of coaching carousel. People are talking about, where's Belichick going to go? Do you know what they're waiting for? They're waiting to see what's going to happen, because I bet you this: if the Eagles, you think our coaching staff's in trouble? If the Eagles or the Cowboys lose this weekend, McCarthy and Sirianni will both be canned the next day.
I agree.
With Vrabel, Harbaugh, all those people, and
Belichick
the reason why the Cowboys,
and everybody else.
And by the way, the Cowboys, the reason why they might fire McCarthy right away is because the moment their season's over, Dan Quinn's going to go to Seattle. So if they want Dan Quinn to come down and be their head coach, they're going to fire McCarthy right away.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if they know Belichick's out there or Vrabel's out there, they're going to can Sirianni and bring one of those two in tomorrow. Honestly, I've never seen this. The amount of coach firings. That's why I don't know what Ross might do. Ross is the X factor, because if he sees all these big players out there, because of what he did a couple of years ago, nothing would shock me. Like, I would not be shocked if we lost on Saturday, on Monday morning, they're fired.
Everybody's
fired. If he knows Harbaugh's out there, he might go do it.
Evan wants somebody fired.
Listen,
I don't.
I'll tell you this.
I want them to win. Okay. Okay, guys.
I'll tell you this. Do you remember many, many moons ago?
Yes, I'm right. Yes, thank you, Cap.
Before a certain coach went to Michigan, and rest in peace, Tony Sparano was our head coach. And he went and had that conversation with Jim Harbaugh, and it was bad, because then he came and was like, "No, I always had faith in Tony Sparano," and gave him a contract extension.
Yeah,
I can see that. I don't want to see it, but I can see that happening exactly how you explained it. That we lose this game in terrible fashion. Steve Ross is like, man, my Michigan boys out there.
Tom Garfinkel is a Michigan guy also. You have to remember.
I hate that you put it out there, because you tend to jinx things the wrong way. So I hate that you put that out there, but it could happen.
Okay. I believe the Dolphins are going to win this football game because of the underdog mentality. And I just want to be clear to everyone. My distrust in Mike McDaniel has nothing to do with the human being. It has to do with the fact that consistently he has not shown Manny, Hank, or any of us that in a big football game, he's a big boy.
He's going to show you Saturday.
I believe he will show me Saturday. And I do believe that Blitz is going to have a great game on Saturday.
Yes,
right,
Blitz right there. That's little Blitz.
Blitz is going to have.
Blitz is like, let me sleep, man.
Rest in peace, Tony.
Nah, she was just getting up. That's why I showed her.
By the way, I hope you know that the last month, I guarantee the number one Dolphins GIF on Twitter is Tony Sparano running across the field going like this.
That man loved his field goals, man. That man loved his field goals.
Oh my God.
He would be in love with Jason Sanders. That's all I got to say. Because he had Dan Carpenter, and Dan Carpenter was legit from 60 plus.
Yeah.
But he would love Jason Sanders.
Looking tired, yeah. But no, anyways. No, so for me, I do believe the Dolphins are in a better position now after being humbled in December. Yes. Because had they won that game by, let's say, 1 point, the revenge on the Bills' mind, I could have seen a shellacking the week after.
Mm-hmm.
This is a better situation. No matter how cold, no matter what, the Dolphins have basically in their mind, they essentially have nothing to lose at this point. We expect things, but they have nothing to lose in everyone else's mind.
They are 100% the underdog. 100%.
They should sneak up. They're the dark horse for me right now. And I do believe that they're going to win this football game.
All right.
Any final words from the two of you before I thank everyone who came to watch?
No, man. Thank you for finally having me on. Thank you for waiting
until
week 19 of the season to finally invite me on. It was great doing it with you.
Welcome next Thursday too. You want to join Courtney and Hank and I? You're welcome back next Thursday.
Okay. Do you want to have a 4-man show? We can have a 4-man show, man.
I can have a 10-man show.
Hopefully we're not talking about off season.
No, we're going to be talking about the fact that we're going to have to go face Houston or Cleveland.
Whomever. Right.
Because I will tell you this. More convinced I am of this game. I believe Mike Tomlin. I think they already won their Super Bowl, the Bills. The Tomlin's going to go shock them. Tomlin is going to go do something. Tomlin's going to whip something up. The Bills are going to choke on Sunday.
You're right.
I appreciate that, Ray. I really do.
Yeah, it is a great beard.
I appreciate that.
It's a more beautiful beard than the other. By the way, this is the positive beard. The other beard comes on the pregame show, Brett. Brett's the negative beard.
Listen, I've seen a lot of people go after Brett on Twitter.
Oh,
I don't know what it is, but
I don't know. Honestly, you talked about one of your colleagues on another network.
Yeah.
I don't know who people go after more. Like, just go after Brett, though. Stop going after her, honestly.
Yeah.
Anyways, Cap, Mark, Raphael, who else am I missing? Ray's always there. The best Hammer Time.
Daniel, Paul, Ray Finkel.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have a lot of stuff going on this network. Catch me on Saturday at noon while the lovely Fish Tank Hank, my pops, asks me the softball questions at noon, followed by the pregame show. We'll have a special guest, myself, Bobby Fins Talk, Bobby Melendez, and we'll have a special guest who's also a Packers fan on Sunday night. I can't remember the person's name at the top of my head.
Ooh.
So I should get it up.
Hopefully they're not watching.
They're not watching, I promise you. I'll pull it up right now because I feel bad. We will have, let's pull it up. Pregame show, postgame, pregame show. We will have Murder, She Wrote of Draft Countdown on our show on Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Manny, you're welcome to join us again, too. Anytime you guys want to join our shows, we're having a good time. We'll also be predicting the other games that are happening throughout the weekend, as well as obviously talking about the upcoming game. And then we'll have our post-game show right afterwards. We have a lot going on the Fins Talk Sports Network. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Greatest Show on Surf.shop. And following this show, you'll see an ad for Caneswear. If you want amazing stuff, everything I'm mostly wearing, this hat, my watch, everything I wear, Caneswear, Brett, and that group are great people. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Any final words? Bearded and Fish Tank?
Fins up, man. I'll be doing a prediction show tomorrow on the Dolphins Talk Network with Marissa Marino, that some may know from Twitter. She's world famous now. She's definitely world famous now. Oh, yeah. And we'll have Courtney from the Fins Talk Sports Network with us as well.
I was the greatest supporter of.
There you go, BeanieGate. Hashtag BeanieGate. So if you follow me, listen, on all socials, I am the BeardedPhinatic. You can follow me on Dolphins.
Time's your show tomorrow?
Tomorrow we will be going live at 7 p.m.
I will check you out. You know I'll be there. Hank, any final words before we see you Saturday?
Fins up, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Fins up, everyone.
I have a cold.
Take care, guys.
Hey, Miami sports fans.